It's strange how one moment, a single lapse in judgment, can spiral into something so much bigger than you ever intended. At first, it felt manageable, almost harmless. But over time, the lie grew heavier, more suffocating, until it consumed me completely. Tonight, I want to confess what happened, the mistake, the cover-up, and the toll it took on my life. Because silence isn't protection, it's poison. And maybe, just maybe, saying these words aloud will help me finally let go of the burden I've carried for so long. It all started with a simple error, or at least that's how I justified it back then. I was rushing to meet a tight deadline, juggling multiple tasks without giving any of them the attention they deserved. In my haste, I overlooked a critical detail in a financial report, one that skewed projections dramatically. By the time I realized what I'd done, the document had already been sent out to senior management and key stakeholders. Panic set in immediately. What would they think? Would they fire me? My mind raced with worst-case scenarios, each more terrifying than the last. Instead of owning up to my mistake, I convinced myself there was another way out, a way to fix things before anyone noticed. The first lie came easily enough, or so it seemed. I told myself it was temporary, just a stopgap measure until I could undo the damage quietly. I rewrote sections of the report, altering numbers and explanations to make everything appear accurate. Then I crafted a plausible excuse for the discrepancy. An outdated data source caused the error during processing. It sounded convincing, even to me. With each keystroke, I buried the truth deeper, constructing a web of lies designed to shield me from accountability. At the time, it felt like survival. Looking back now, I see it for what it truly was: cowardice. Once the initial lie was out, there was no turning back. Every question led to another fabrication. Every inquiry required a new layer of deception. During meetings, I sat rigidly, nodding along while colleagues dissected the very inconsistencies I'd created. Each accusation felt like a knife twisting deeper, forcing me to double down on my story. I invented fictional sources, blamed technical glitches, and even implicated coworkers indirectly, all to deflect suspicion away from myself. The irony wasn't lost on me. The more I tried to protect myself, the more entangled I became. Guilt gnawed at me constantly, but fear kept me silent. Fear of exposure, fear of judgment, fear of losing everything. As the weeks dragged on, the fallout began. Trust evaporated overnight, replaced by suspicion and resentment. Coworkers whispered behind my back, questioning my motives and accusing me of incompetence, or worse, malice. Some distanced themselves entirely, unwilling to associate with someone labeled unreliable. Others confronted me directly, venting their frustrations without restraint. Even friendships fractured under the strain. Every interaction reminded me of my failure, isolating me further. For the first time, I understood the true cost of breaking trust, not just professionally, but personally. The confrontation came swiftly, too swiftly for me to prepare. Upper management called an emergency meeting demanding answers. Standing in that conference room, surrounded by judgmental stares, I felt smaller than I ever had before. They grilled me relentlessly, asking why I hadn't flagged the errors earlier, why I hadn't sought help, why I'd resorted to deception instead of transparency. Each question sliced through me, exposing my carelessness. When I tried to explain, my voice faltered, betraying the fear gripping me. Their disappointment was palpable, and worse still, I couldn't blame them. If roles were reversed, I'd feel the same way.
I knew I couldn't navigate this alone. Therapy became my lifeline, a safe space to process the shame and guilt consuming me. At first, I raged against myself, against fate, against the circumstances that led to my mistake. Slowly, though, anger gave way to acceptance. Acceptance that mistakes are human, yes, but accountability is non-negotiable. Together, we worked on strategies to rebuild trust, not just with others, but with myself. Forgiveness doesn't erase consequences, but it allows healing to begin. For the first time since the incident, I dared to hope that redemption might still be possible. Making amends wasn't easy, not when the wounds were still fresh. I reached out to key individuals impacted by the breach, apologizing sincerely and offering to help mitigate the damage. To my surprise, some welcomed my efforts, admitting they'd struggled with similar lapses in judgment. We worked together to rectify errors, strengthen protocols, and prevent future incidents. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Gradually, relationships began to mend, built on transparency and mutual effort rather than secrecy and blame. Those moments reminded me that forgiveness isn't guaranteed, but it starts with vulnerability and action. Looking back, I see patterns in my behavior, patterns of haste, distraction, and misplaced confidence. That single mistake taught me more than any training program ever could. It showed me the importance of diligence, the value of double-checking, and the fragility of trust. These lessons weren't easy. They came wrapped in regret and heartache, but they reshaped me in ways success never could. Writing these reflections helps me process the journey, documenting growth and reminding myself that accountability isn't weakness, it's strength. As I sit here today, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I remind myself that letting go of perfection doesn't mean abandoning responsibility. It means embracing humanity.
Today, I focus on progress, not perfection. I've implemented stricter measures to ensure nothing like this happens again. Double verifications, peer reviews, automated reminders. Mistakes may still occur, but I handle them differently now, with transparency, accountability, and compassion. That quote on my wall reminds me daily that growth isn't linear. It's messy, unpredictable, and often painful, but it's also beautiful. So here's to moving forward, not with fear, but with resilience. Thank you for listening to my story.